Hey guys, Doug Childs here, Little Warriors, Rich.
And Wildmen.
How you doing, big dog?
Doing great, man. How are you? You having a good week?
Yeah, I found my granddad's glasses, buddy.
Those are cool, man.
Watch this one. Watch this when I stare into the studio light.
Oh yeah, get that cool ring around the eyes.
Oh yeah, brother.
Disco.
Man card, man card, man card. Scar your man card. Hey, if you don't have the man card yet, do yourself a favor. Go over to warriorsandwildmen.com, click your mouse, melt your plastic, and boom! Get this little, what do we call this? A witness to victory and overcoming. Rich, what do we encourage the Warriors and Wildmen follower to do once they get this bad mama jama?
Smash a dent in that thing, man. Hashtag scar the card. Every time you do something epic, which getting the Warriors and Wildmen man card off the bat is epic because you're making a choice to be epic. And when you do that, man, every time you do something awesome in your life, bang that thing.
Scar the card, baby.
Scar the card, man.
Hey, Rich, we got a hot topic today. Me and you, we have a wealth of knowledge and information, and that we want to share with the Warriors and Wildmen crowd and stuff. And it's like, hey, buddy, it's like, what do we want to go to in our arsenal of goodies for this podcast? And you said, let's talk about responsibility because people are passing the buck, just like Victoria's Secrets would pass on Larry the Cable Guy if he auditioned for their cat show.
Yep, that's it. People do not want to take responsibility. And you know what, Doug? This is a problem that's been around a long time. Matter of fact, it started in the Garden of Eden. When Adam sinned, the Lord said, Adam, where are you? Here's a little tip for your life. When God asks you a question, he's not looking for information. He's omnipotent. He knows where you are. He's asking you because he knows you're up to no good. So Adam says, hey, what's up? And God said, why are you wearing those funky leaves? And what's the deal here? And Adam said, oh, we were naked and we were ashamed. He said, who told you you're naked? You talking to that crazy snake again? Apparently they'd been talking to the crazy snake. So the Lord says, hey, didn't I tell you not to eat that fruit? And he goes, yeah, but the woman that you gave me, she gave it to me to eat it. No responsibility, Doug. And then Eve says, the Lord's like, what's up with that? And Eve says, it was the snake that you put in the garden. So actually, whenever you do something wrong, it's God's fault because he's the creator, right? No one has free will. No one has free choice. And since no one has free will and free choice, no one has responsibility. So we just pass the buck, pass the buck, pass the buck. God said, no problem. Everybody who was involved in this, everybody going to get some of this. And everybody got a curse because of what they did and their responsibility, and nobody owned it. Doug?
Yeah, I'd like to highlight for the Warrior and Wildmen listener, in case you missed it, is that the curse rode on the shirking of responsibility. And some of you guys have got my book, Pussification, the Effeminization of the American Male. I tell my readers, man, if you want to move from Pussville to Mantown, Little Crispin, one of the key factors to forever leave that putrid swamp called Pussville that you've been living in is that you got to take responsibility, man. You got to quit passing the buck. Hey, listen, Rich and the Warrior and Wildmen listener, you know who's responsible for all the bad stuff that pretty much has happened in my life, like 99.9% of it? The devil.
Yeah, I knew it. That was going to be my first guess.
No, it's got to be me, man. I mean, now some of the stuff I had no control over, but the bad crap, I'd say a big whopping chunk, Rich, that's occurred in my life happened because I made bad decisions. I was not shrewd. I didn't seek God's will, and I followed my lower cortex monkey brain and did something stupid. And you know what that makes me? That makes me somebody who can get out of a pit, because I'm dealing honestly with my own foibles instead of projecting and blame shifting and living in a hot tub of dysfunction.
Yep, there you go, Doug. And you know what? That's the reality, is everybody wants to make an excuse for everything. But here's the problem. If the problem isn't with you, then the solution's not with you. And so if it's not my fault that I'm in the mess that I'm in, if I'm not the problem, I'm also not the answer. See, so people think taking responsibility is a bad thing. Everybody's trying to get out of the consequences. Look, you can choose to do whatever you want. You cannot choose the consequences. So you could choose it. You don't get to choose the consequences. Sometimes you know what they are, sometimes you don't. But the reality is, if I'm the problem, I'm the solution. So if I take responsibility, I also can own it, apologize. My dad used to say, look, man, when you do something wrong, admit it, say that you're sorry, and then say you won't do it again. He said, and he was talking about work. When you get in trouble at work, you do something wrong, tell your boss, I did it, I'm sorry, I won't do it again. And he said it'll be a much shorter conversation. Make sure what you said is true, and then get your butt up and walk out of there.
Yeah, for the people who aren't familiar with the term or thought of being responsible, the word responsible, well, it's an adjective which means having the job or duty of dealing with or taking care of something or someone. And yeah, that's what we're talking about today. But in this postmodern milieu of entitlement culture and big government handout droogies, saying it's not my job and eschewing responsibility, brother, that's the soup du jour, man. And like you said, it might feel good. There might be a temporary relief from some kind of momentary pain. But OMG, baby, as you crawl on in life and you mature and you get older, that stuff starts to bite, and it bites deeply.
Yeah, so that stuff's crazy, man. I'll tell you what, Eleanor Roosevelt said this. In the long run, we shape our lives and we shape ourselves. The process never ends until we die, and the choices we make are ultimately our own responsibility.
That's not bad for a lesbian, buddy.
Eleanor Roosevelt.
Oh, yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah. Come on,
Tell
Rich.
me
You
things
didn't know
like
that?
No, I didn't. I didn't know that.
And there's nothing wrong with it. Okay.
All right, then how about Theodore
According
Roosevelt?
to Teddy. Okay.
All right, this is what he says. If you could kick the person in the pants responsible for the most of your trouble, you wouldn't sit for a month. How about that one, Doug?
Yeah, if somebody calls you a jackass 4 times, you know, my grandpa said you need to buy a saddle, right?
Yeah, that's what they say. If somebody tells you you're a donkey, ignore them. If 2 people tell you you're a donkey, ignore them. If 3 people tell you you're a donkey, ignore them. If 4 people tell you you're a donkey, get the saddle.
You know what's interesting, and this is why leadership matters, man, is during Obama's 2 torrid terms in the White House, sitting behind that desk where Bill Clinton boinked Monica.
You mean the one that he had his feet up on disrespectfully in the Oval Office? I was just wondering if that was the same desk.
Yeah, that exact same desk. You know, he wasn't responsible for anything negative, period.
Nope.
Any kind of bad stuff happen during his administration? No, he'd kick it back to Bush. He'd kick it off to somebody that he appointed. Nothing was his responsibility. And you know, another thing about Obama is that he would take credit for crap that he didn't even do, man.
Wait, so what he did is he did the opposite of real leadership and real Christian traits. Is he took credit for things that he didn't do, and he wouldn't take the responsibility that was always his. Because when you're the leader, the responsibility is yours. When you're the man of the house, come on, Doug. You can be the man of the house. Everything's your responsibility. It may not have been your fault, but ultimately, it's your responsibility. If somebody in your family does something that's not right, the oversight was still your responsibility. And to go in and to correct it and make it right is your responsibility. So too many times we're trying to find out whose fault and make an excuse. And it doesn't matter if you intended it or not. When you're the man of the house, it's your responsibility.
Here's something that I've seen when I was in the ministry. You've seen it. You watch the news; it pops up. I'd say on occasion, but you know when take Ted Haggard for instance. So Ted Haggard, he's the pastor of or was the pastor of the New Life Church in Colorado Springs. I don't know what they call it now. And he was George Bush's spiritual advisor, and and he was a cat's pajamas, man. He was the president of the National Evangelical Association, and really pushing hard for traditional marriage, saying that, you know, gay marriage is taboo. And then all of a sudden, this gay masseuse, I believe from Denver, he was watching TV and he sees Ted on TV, you know, just lambasting the homosexual agenda and trying to change marriage laws and definition of marriage. And the gay masseuse said, Hey, I know that guy. He snorts crystal meth off my abs, and I have sex with him. So when he exposed Ted Haggard, I was sitting there going, oh my God, man, this if Ted does not take responsibility, if he blame shifts, this is going to be bad. Because CNN and all these other muckrakers, man, they got their rake out, and they're going to find out whether it's true or not. So anyway, CNN sticks a microphone in the cab of his pickup truck, and he's got his 5 sons in that pickup truck with his wife, and said, "Is it true?" And he said, "No, it's not true." And of course, the rest of the story is you found out it was true, but in the healing process of Ted, and then picking back the layers of the onion to why the hell did you do that, dude? Guess who was blamed, Rich? The devil. The devil made me do it.
I knew it.
Really? Well, it sure wasn't an angel that made you do it. But Rich, from a theological standpoint, help me here, buddy, because I might be a little rusty because I hadn't been in the game for a while. I don't think the devil can really do something that you give him no ground to do. If you give him ground, if you follow the superfluity of naughtiness in your flesh, then OMG, man, will they storm in. But can they overpower your will and just make you a puppet and
So
without
what you're saying,
any
Doug,
kind of responsibility on your behalf?
is the devil made me do it is theologically inaccurate. Unless you sold out and you gave him a legal right to have some influence. But the devil can't make you, because you know what? God can make you, but he doesn't. He doesn't violate your free will, and he's the only one that can. The devil can't violate your free will. It doesn't work like that. Now, somebody might say, what if a person's demon-possessed? But they don't get demon-possessed for nothing.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? The Bible says
I think it's Ephesians.
The curse doesn't fall without a cause.
Yeah, I think
That's what the Bible
Ephesians
says.
4 says, be angry and sin not, and give no place for the devil. Now, the word place is the Greek word topos, which we get the word topography from, and which is
land.
an area of no area of occupation.
Yep.
You know, because again, once you concede, then yeah, he sets up a stronghold. He sets up a fortress. I don't know whether it's in you or on you, whether you're possessed or oppressed.
And since those words don't exist in Greek, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, and the thing that bothers me the most is the word demon. You know.
Yeah, and you know what? That's
not
why
oppressed or possessed.
I read a thing that says it could more accurately be translated so that it's not even a debate, is demonized. Because then whether inside, outside, whatever, I don't want demons in me, on me, around me. I don't want to be demonized. I read a great story in a book by Oswald Sanders called Spiritual Discipleship, and he tells a story about a lord of this area, and he was buying this town. So he sent some of his people into the town to go make offers and buy land, and they did, and some people didn't want to sell. And then he sent in higher offers, obviously, and he went in and bought the rest of the land and got everybody to buy or to sell, except for one guy who had a little cottage and a small garden in the middle of the town, and the guy wouldn't sell it. And so he went himself and said, I'll tell you what, I'll put a gold coin on every square foot of your property, and that's what I'll give you for this land. And the guy said, I'll only sell it if you cover my property with gold coins and if you stack them up end on their end. And the guy said, well, that's impossible. Nobody has that much money. And he said, it's not for sale. And he said, what are you talking about? And he said, and remember something, because my land is in the middle of your land, I have the right to cross your land to get to my land anytime I want. And he said, so I want you to remember this. This is not your town. This is our town. And then Oswald Sanders comes back and follows that up with, if you're a Christian and you give up any land in your heart to the devil has the right to come and go as he pleases legally in your life because you refuse to sell out and you kept that one spot open for the devil. So the devil does have that. But here's the deal, Doug. That doesn't mean the devil can come and tell you and go, Doug, go kill somebody. You're like, well, the devil made me do it. Well, the devil tells you all kinds of stupid stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The flesh tells you all kinds of stupid stuff. The devil partners with the flesh to tell you stupid stuff. The devil gets together with stupid people with your flesh to partner and tell you stupid stuff. But at the end of the day, you're responsible for what you do. You are
Yeah.
responsible for what you do. That's why I'm done with the hate crime bullcrap. If you kill somebody, I don't care what your motive is. I care what you did. You killed somebody, now we're going to kill you back. You know what I mean? That's how that works.
Yeah, it's pretty sad, man, because again, like if you blame a demon, if you blame El Diablo, Lucifer, Morning Star, whatever you want to call him,
Yeah.
Joy Behar, then again, it's something that's it's out of your control. You got to have an exorcism. You got to have Benny Hinn come slap you with his white Nehru jacket or something like that. Instead of understanding that, there's something different between me and an animal. Not only is it the 4-foot, 2-foot type difference in contrast, there's also this thing that I have the ability to choose how I'll react when things occur to me. And,
even when they're wrong. Even when they're wrong.
Yeah, and
when
and
wrong
again,
things
this,
happen, when you've been intentionally wronged, and when bad things happen that weren't intentional, it's just the way life goes, you still have a choice on how you want to react.
Yeah, and I've taught my kids this all the time. If they walk past a little piece of trash or paper, pick it up.
Yep.
I didn't drop it there. Not my job. It's like, who gives a crap, man? Be the kind of person that you embrace duty, it is your job. And I've watched people throughout my life when they take responsibility from the little stuff of picking up trash to embracing leadership. Man, all they do is grow, grow, and grow. The other ones who eschew responsibility, and like I said, they're blame shifters and dysfunctional.
Yep.
Man, that is a success principle if you want to be this thing that we call a big old loser, man.
That's it, man.
Constantly blame shift, constantly take that buck, Rich, and just push it on over that way.
Pass the buck.
If you get that in your family, you're going to have a house full of losers. If you get that in the workplace... If you get that in the workplace, it's going to destroy your bottom line.
Yep.
And again, to me, taking responsibility, that is a fast track into manhood, masculinity, and greatness. And again, it might hurt and it might be embarrassing if you've done something wrong. But again, like Rich said, man, is that people, by doing that, you shake off the curse.
Yep.
And you move forward to the blessing, and you start this process of real, actual, positive change just by taking responsibility and say, you know what, I'm the dumbass, and I'm the problem for most of my
and
most
people
of my
respect
foibles.
that. People respect that. When you own it, people respect it. Look, when you do stupid stuff, it's not that people can't understand it. They understand. And when you own it and you don't make excuses for it and you apologize and you change your mind, you're like, I'm not going to do this again, people respect that. I don't know this guy. I'm probably saying his name wrong, but Steve Maraboli. Do you know who that is?
No.
He wrote a book called Unapologetically You, Reflections on Life and the Human Experience. Anyway, it's a great quote that he wrote here. Listen to this. The victim mindset dilutes the human potential. By not accepting personal responsibility for our circumstances, we greatly reduce our power to change them. Isn't that
Boom.
good? Yeah, the victim mindset dilutes the human potential. If you want to be who you could be, you have to take responsibility.
And that's listen, the victim mindset. That's another reason, just vying off our one of our podcasts about how a Christian can either be a Christian or a liberal, but not both.
Yeah,
victimhood is the song, man. It is the song of the left. Poor you. You're the victim. It's because, the man, the machine. It's because some outside force. And that's the reason why you eat frickin' government cheese and powdered milk and live in a van down by the river. That's the reason. Yeah, man. It's somebody else. Unbelievable, man. I've seen people with cerebral palsy become stand-up comedians. I've got guys that we do Purple Heart hunts that have their frickin' faces blown off, their arms gone, their legs gone, 2 legs gone, 1 arm, 2 legs, and they're just battered beyond recognition. They've seen so much crap in 20 short years being in battle in Iraq and Afghanistan, and you know what? They have prosperous businesses, and they motivate people who've gone through a fraction of what you, little dinky, have gone through going over your molehill in the Garden of Eden.
Yep, that's
right. Unbelievable, man.
That's really good. And I like what you said too, Doug. I think it's important, is that taking responsibility for not only the things that we do, but we take responsibility for the things that we should be overseeing. So if I do something wrong, I need to take responsibility for that. But if it's something I'm responsible for, and I think a lot of men don't get that. It's like you were saying, Obama passes everything off on anybody else. If you're the boss, if you're the CEO, everything's your fault. And too many bosses and CEOs are acting like spoiled brats who've never been smacked in the face, and they're like, I'm in charge, so I don't take any responsibility. And it's actually the exact opposite. Because you're in charge, you will take responsibility. You will own it. You don't make excuses about it. You find out where the breakdown is, and you get in there and you fix it. And if it means correcting and confronting people and doing those things, all right, but it is your responsibility. You don't get to say, look what they did. You're in charge, baby. You are in charge.
So, Rich, what does the Warrior and Wildmen listener need to do if they are a little dipstick sitting in their rank dysfunction, filled with blame shifting and finger pointing at they, them, the other guy for their sad sack existence?
Well, I'll tell you what. Brené Brown is a personal. She teaches. She's like a life coach. She says, if you own this story, you get to write the ending. Check that out. If you own it, you can write the ending. But if you're going to stay yeah, you know what I was going to say. If you're going to be one of those little female dogs, and you're a victim of everything and everyone, and maybe you are a victim of some things in your life, but guess what? Own the story, man. Own the story. Doug, I heard a story of a pastor. I got to tell you a story. It's incredible. I was overseas. This pastor I know, super awesome guy. He has a beautiful wife, beautiful family. He's one of the nicest people that you ever met. He's tall. He shaves his head bald, dresses sharp. It's just super cool, right? And he's giving his story one day, and I'd known him for years. And he says, when I was 6 years old on my birthday, my father came home and raped me.
What?
And Doug, when I heard that, it impacted me. I almost literally started crying, Doug, because I know this guy. It was devastating, right? And I was like, what? And he said, before that, I was a happy kid. Everything changed. He said, when I turned 13, my dad brought his friend home, and his friend raped me. And he said, but when I was 16, I found freedom. He said, I found freedom in heroin.
Eesh.
And he said, and by the time I was 19, I was in prison for selling heroin. And he said, but by the time I was 23, I'd given my life to Jesus Christ. I got healed, and I got set free from those things. I didn't choose those things. They happened to me. But I'm not going to live my life letting that define who. And Doug, I'm telling you,
good, buddy.
If you met this guy, Doug, you would love this guy. You'd be like, this guy's a great guy. He's an awesome guy, awesome family. And he's not a guy that's putting on a show for everybody, because he has an awesome family. That doesn't come by accident, right? Great kids, couple grandkids, super guy. You would never guess that. Doug, isn't that the goal? That, okay, maybe these things happen to me. I didn't choose those things. It's not my fault. But you know what? I'm going to take responsibility for the rest of my life. I own this life. God gave it to me. I'm writing the end of the story, and I'm not quitting. It doesn't say that what happens okay. It just says I'm not quitting.
Yeah, it's just like Micah. I was reading the prophet Micah. Most people don't check out those minor prophets. And yesterday in Micah chapter 7, he's like, look, man, I'm a grape gathering fig picker. And I've done some really bad things. And it doesn't feel like God's people like me. The enemy likes me. Dogs don't like me. And yet he said, nevertheless, I'm going to confess my sin before God. And he's going to elevate me. He's going to establish me. He's going to lift me up. And I like how Micah's like, hey, man, I've got myself here in this lurch. I don't know what I did, but I did it. But you know what? I'm still believing God that he's going to extract me out of this crap hole. And you didn't see him say the people of God, man, they pushed me too far and they made me go off and, strafe up a church or something like that. He didn't blame, some pirate hooker chick like Delilah or anybody at all. He's like, look, I did it. I'm a barrenless fig picker. And, and I'm in a hell of a mess right now. But you know what, God? You're still a merciful God. Reestablish me. Put me back up on my feet. incredible way that, again, David was the same way, man. When David screwed Bathsheba, he didn't say, man, the devil really got a hold of me, man. And what's she doing bathing on a roof anyway? How could everybody could see her? How could I not boink that, He didn't do that. He didn't like Saul. It's like, well, start passing the buck to somebody else.
The people did.
David said, boom, it's me, man.
He said, I am the man.
Yeah. And that, again, brother, that's some weird stuff. Hey, and going back to the whole thing of victimhood, and we had her on our show, my daughter Regis, who wrote the book, How Not to Be a Me Too Victim, but a Warrior Chick. I remember when the Weinstein stuff was coming out, and all the girls, who was it? That Rose McGowan and Alyssa Milano, and just one chick after the other's like, Harvey Weinstein grabbed my titty. Yeah, he pushed me in a hot tub, made me have sex with that homunculus slob. And Regis is just getting pissed. She's getting angry watching this and hearing these girls, little victimhood, little I didn't have anything, I could do. Hey, what about picking up a lamp and smashing him in the head if you really are being raped?
Or scratch his face.
Yeah, or what about doing this? Like Pamela Anderson said, of all people, Rich, how about don't go alone to this moron's room at 3 o'clock in the morning at a Chateau Marmont suite? Huh?
Yep.
About meeting him in public. But no, and again, he might have really raped some people. I don't doubt that at all, man. He's friends
definitely
with
not
Bill
supporting
Clinton.
that.
He's friends with the Clintons, so there's some creepy crap going on in that cat's life.
Yep.
However, again, you could have not gone up to that hotel room. You damn straight you could have not done it. You could have insisted responsibly to meet in public with a friend or some Cujo-like Rottweiler with AIDS or something that would protect you should he get a little ham-fisted and a little gropey. And but again, it's all victimhood. It's all it's not my fault. And again, I'm not saying that it's their fault if they truly got raped. But listen, ladies, if you're watching the Warriors and Wildmen, man, use your head. Don't go into those environments. They can't really do that kind of crap in public. So stay in public all the time. And in the meantime, learn how to shoot a gun, carry that gun, be licensed to carry, have gun insurance, and also learn jiu-jitsu.
So check this out. Here's 5 things quickly that a person can do to take responsibility. When you're confronted with something that you did wrong, this is a process that a lot of people will go through right away. The first thing they do, Doug, is they deny it. They say, I didn't do it, or I don't do that. People will deny it a lot of times until you can prove it. And you have to press them long enough to admit it. The first thing is don't deny it. If you just get right to, I did it, I own it, I'm going to change. But too many people, when you confront them with a problem, they deny it. And so recognize this in your own life if you do this when you're confronted. You deny it. And then when you can't deny it and they prove that you did it or you do it, maybe you're a person that lies and you act like you don't, but they prove that you do. The second thing people do is they act like they're ignorant. They say, well, I didn't know that I did it. I actually didn't know I was doing that. I wasn't aware that I do that. And they act like they don't know, right? But it's just an excuse because, again, they're not taking responsibility. So first they deny it.
Here's something that I find interesting, Rich, and maybe you can help me with this new ecclesiastical soft speech that goes on when ministers commit adultery. I was reading this the other day. Big minister in Florida had a moral failure. What is a moral failure? Telling a lie. There's a lot of things that
are immoral.
Okay, so this moral failure that he left the ministry over, I found out yesterday he molested a 4-year-old girl.
That's not a moral failure.
For like 7 years, man. But here's the church leadership said, well, we're going to have to let so and so go. He's had a moral failure, and it's like. I have those like every day, What's a moral failure?
Yeah, so it's glossing it over.
Yeah, so man, it was all left, to me, hey, if you raped a 4-year-old kid, that's prison. What do you mean moral failure?
Bye.
How can you gloss that that down? How can you shellac, that into, it could be whatever, I mean, it's just, again, that's part and parcel, brother, of not taking responsibility.
Yeah, stop trying to rename it.
Yeah, I had a moral failure. I fell.
I was listening
no, you didn't fall. You jumped. You didn't fall. You jumped, and you did it naked, and you had bells on, and you wanted to. You were entitled. You thought you deserved it. Blah blah blah. That's what you really did.
Yep.
You didn't fall.
Well, I heard Ravenhill sermon the other day, and he says, I was talking to some ministers the other day, and he said, and they were talking about call girls, and he said they're not call girls. He said they're whores. And he said, and everyone was shocked. And he said, but that's the Bible language. And he said this. He said, and then they were talking about people who were gay. And he said, they're not gay, they're filthy sodomites. And he said, and they were shocked. And he said, and that's the problem today, is that no one takes responsibility. And the first thing we do is we rename things so they don't sound as bad. Like a moral failure, they're trying to act like he had an affair with his secretary. You know what? Molesting a 4-year-old girl is not a moral failure. You're a deviant. You're a sick,
that's odd,
twisted. You need to go to prison and get stomped into the ground and get some prison justice. You know what I'm saying?
I'll send you the articles and the follow-up that occurred. It'll blow your mind, man. It's absolutely. And guess what he did after he left the ministry?
Became a life coach.
No, he started running a nightclub.
Well, there you go.
Unbelievable, buddy.
Check this out.
And Rich, when it's gonna.
So people, they deny it when they're confronted. Don't do that. Then they act like they don't know. And when I say they, I'm talking about you. Don't do it. Don't do this whole process of stupidity that I'm describing in 5 points. The third thing they do is then first they say they didn't do it. Second, they say they didn't know they were doing it. And here's the craziest thing, Doug. People immediately start to justify it. And they start to blame others. And they start to tell you why this happened. And then, but this person, like say a person's rude. Make a simple thing. You're a rude person. You're being rude and disrespectful to other people. I don't do that. Yes, you do. No, I don't. I never do that. Okay, here's 3 examples. Oh, okay. Well, I didn't realize I was doing it. So you didn't realize you were being rude? No,
the reason I'm being rude is I'm a prophet.
I'm a type A personality. I just didn't realize it. It's like, okay. So you tell them, you know what? You knew this is the thing. So when you get past that, then the third thing they do is they justify it and they say, but you know what they did to me that made me do that? And it's like, wait a minute. First, you said you didn't do it. That was a lie. Second, you said you didn't know you're doing it. Now you're telling me why it's okay you did it. So you did know you were doing it. So people justify it and say, well, other people did this, and that was my reaction to them. And then they go to the fourth thing, Doug, this happens. And I wrote this down through counseling people. Check this out. The fourth thing they do is they go, you know what, man? And they start crying. They go, when I was a kid, my dad never gave me enough love. And you know what they're trying to do? They're trying to throw you off their track. They're trying to throw you off the scent. They're trying to say, you know what, man? They're trying to get you off nailing them on their issue. And now they're saying, when I was
Daddy
a kid.
Didn't love me,
So what they're saying is, actually, I'm the victim in all this. And I don't need to be corrected and confronted. I need to be helped.
And again, and you see it on TV all the time. You get some guy who shoots up like a 7-Eleven convenience store, and then here comes Access Hollywood. They stick a mic in his face as he's being brought in for the arraignment and stuff. And they're going, "Why'd you do that? Why'd you shoot up the 7-Eleven?" Or like one of these school shooters. "Why'd you shoot up the school?" "Well, Daddy was late for my 3rd grade play, man, with me playing Peter Pan, and he didn't used to buy me baseball cards like my friend Robert's dad used to do him. And that's why I cross-dressed and went into the school and strafed up a bunch of 3-year-olds." Yeah, that's
now
it.
you're the victim. Yeah, it doesn't work like that.
Poor you. Yeah, and I like who's the latest numbnuts that shot up the Parkland High School. I can't remember the guy's name, Nicholas Cruz or something like that. Here he's like, he was not loved as a child. Well, both of his parents are dead. They can't even defend themselves. What kind of horse shit is that, man?
And they can't love them. They're dead.
Yeah.
Sorry we died. Sorry that didn't work out for your childhood. We died. That still doesn't make you a victim. Does it suck? It sucks. It just doesn't make you the victim.
Yeah, and he's the first person who's ever had to, bury both his parents and just move on and try to get a nice adjusted
Nobody else
life.
has ever had to do that.
Never.
So when you start addressing or confronting people, they'll go right through these these steps, and almost always in that order, Doug. It's amazing. When you think about this, if you write this down, I'll send it to you. Write it down. Next time somebody's making excuses, pull up this list and watch, and you'll be like, now they're on number 2. Now they're on number 3. They'll go right down the list. But if you push past the victim part and you keep nailing them on it and you don't fall for the tears, you can get them to get to the place where they say these beautiful words, Doug. It's my fault. I did it. I shouldn't have done it. You're right. And it's funny because usually the tears stop and they start owning it. And that's the place where you begin true repentance. Take responsibility and change. But here's what the problem I found.
Now we can talk.
You know what happens between number 4 and number 5 a lot from victim to change? Is they'll usually go back to 1, 2, or 3 and cycle through them a few more times, depending on what type of manipulator they are, whether intentionally or just habitual manipulator of getting their way their whole life and throwing fits. But they'll cycle back through. But you have to stay, Doug, focus like a laser. But you know what? I'll tell you what, you want to be a man? Take responsibility for yourself. Forget the freaking list. You get confronted, go to number 5. Take responsibility, write it down. Doug, if somebody accuses me of something, you know what I do? I write it down.
Saves time also, Rick.
Doug, I write it down. Somebody accuses me, I write it down. You know what I do then? I ask my wife about it. I ask my friends about it, and I pray about it. And if that's true, I'm going to change it. If that person's a crackhead from off the street, it doesn't mean that what they said might not be true. So I'm going to check it out. I learned that from a pastor that I had a lot of years ago. And so if you want to be a man and you want to be a man of God, you got to take responsibility. You try to pass the buck, you're a chump, man. Get out of here.
You know, my brother's been a doctor. I think he's had his practice for, 25 years, maybe 30 years. Psychologist. His specialty is forensic. And, a lot of people in the therapeutic community, whether it's psychology or psychiatry, oh my gosh, man, will they milk their patients for Lamborghinis, for extra homes, for more square footage, for great vacations, et cetera, et cetera. My brother refuses to see anybody for over a year. It's like, if you don't get your shit together within 12 months, then what are we doing here?
Yeah.
And you look at some of the people, man, that, that I'm sure you've pastored in the past. I ran through a few in Miami. They'll milk their little wound for 15 frickin' years, man. And everybody's like, well, the church, Rich, the church is a hospital. Really? I believe in Ezekiel when there's a bunch of dry bones laying in a valley that God says, hey, Zeke, can these bones live? He's like, I'm not getting in this trick question crap with you, God. You know whether they can live or not, all right? You are the omniscient one, so why don't you thrill me? He goes, prophesy to them. And you know what? These dry bones, brother, they rose up and became a great big hospital. Oh, no, they didn't. They became an army of ass kickers.
Hey, Doug, scholars believe that was a group of soldiers that had been defeated in battle. And then now the bones are dry. They've been dead that long, there's no question. But God raised them up to be an army again. Guess what? We were designed and made by God to conquer. And just because you lost, just because either things happened to you or because of your own stupidity, you did stupid stuff and got consequences, it doesn't mean it's over. Man, you can get the word.
Yeah. But again, just like you said, bouncing through that list and trying to get people to the 5th point, powerful. And listen, Warrior and Wildmen, and I'll take it on as well. I'm sure Rich does the same. Try to jump to number 5.
Yeah.
If indeed you did something. Just the sooner you own it, the sooner you can start changing things, the sooner you can hop on down to the path that leads to the rarefied air in that city called Mantown.
Yep.
And, again, and for pastors out there, if you got people that they're not getting their crap together within a year, I mean, it's almost biblical, man. Jesus said, hey, look at this barren fig tree, nothing on it. And he's going to curse it from the roots up. And he said, you know what? We'll give it a year. So we're going to dig it, we're going to shock its root system, and we're going to throw crap on it. And if it produces fruit, fine. If not, within a year, cut it down. Can you imagine if we did that with principles and relationships and other things that are just absolute time bandits to our lives?
You know what's happening is that tree that's not fruitful is taking up the time and resources that could be used with someone that wants to produce fruit. You know what I'm saying? You got people that don't want to try. They want to be victims forever. Like you said, they just want to sit around and they want to talk about their problems. You know, the fool desires nothing but to express what's in his heart. Well, guess what? Express what's in your heart and then change. Nobody wants to hear it.
Well, the message that the church has put out is, again, perpetual victimhood. And that has nothing to do with Romans 8:28,
Nope.
Overcoming, being a conqueror. Has nothing to do with the resurrection spirit that raised Christ from the dead that should be dwelling in your mortal body as well. Defying gravity, mounting up with wings as eagles,
Yeah.
walking and not getting weary, running and not getting faint. Where is that kind of Christianity? Oh, no,
Yeah.
there's you. You're always the victim. You're always the one laying on the couch. You're always the poor, pitiful you. And listen, if you're gonna do that, and if that's your glide path that you want to be on, then do Rich and I a favor, and all the people in Christendom a favor, and frickin' join a satanic church or become a Buddhist and go drag the life out of them. Don't come into the body of Christ and you're constantly the perpetual mourner, the forlorn little fellowship person that does nothing but, pull the parking brake on this Trans Am that we're trying to drive down the road for Jesus, buddy.
Hey, man, we could probably sum it up with this, Doug. 1 Corinthians 13:11. When I was a child, I spoke like a child, I thought like a child, I reasoned like a child. And when I became a man, I gave up my childish ways. Or like another version says, I put away childish things.
Yeah, and I can't think of anything more childish, brother, than irresponsibility. Takes a man to do that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Amen. So what does the Warrior and Wildmen listener need to do, amigo?
Go to Warriors and Wild Men, subscribe, review us, rate us, follow us on Facebook, leave a comment there. Tell us topics you'd like us to cover on the next shows, and be a man. Get a man card, man. Scar the card.